So we're here with John Sinopoli of Ascari Group, who also is helming Save Hospitality Canada. So we're just going to have a quick chat with John, understand what the group's up to and the economic impact of inaction on that file. So John, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about what Save Hospitality is and what they're up to.
So Save Hospitality is a grassroots organization that we began to form as a response to the crisis, that is the COVID-19 crisis here in Canada. We understood that we were going to need to access government directly to gain the kind of help that we needed that was specific to our industry, and that nobody knew our businesses better than us as the owners. And our goal is to protect all of the jobs of our employees and all of the businesses that we built up over the years. And we really thought that bringing together all of the owners and then kind of coalescing around a single message was really important. There's a lot of disparate groups forming, and that was great. And a lot of them have kind of come together under our umbrella, and a lot of them have just done their own thing as well. We just think that the people we have signed on understand that our business model is very unique and very, very much in peril, more than any other small business sector in the country, maybe other than like tourism. So we have to go to the government and say, we need specific results on certain actions, like immediately. We can't wait for you to figure it out. Here's the numbers. Here's what we think you should do. And so far, the response has been very good in that they're listening, they're receptive. We think they're moving incredibly slowly, but what's fast for them is snail's pace for us. So, we've had, measured success and also some definite frustrations along the way.
So explain to me the scale of this. Like, I know you're talking across the country. How many employees or how many establishments are we chatting about?
So Save Hospitality now has upwards of 1,500 restaurants signed on. And those restaurants represent north of 76,000 laid off employees.
Wow.
And it grows by the day. So we actually have a team of people who, we take the information through the website every day, the new signatory submissions, they get added with their logo, with the owner's names, and then the number of employees that have been laid off. Really, we designed the document at the beginning like that for maximum impact, so that we knew politicians needed to listen. If they wanted to listen to us, we need to have them understand the massive impact that this is having on our business. And these are all the people whose lives are directly affected. So that's grown now. The document's almost 40 pages long, just with signatories, like logos and numbers. We're continuing to update the actual letter and ask as situation develops, as the government comes up with new programs and new announcements. So we're in the middle of it now. It's a ton of work, but it's work that needs to be done. And we're going to begin engaging that group that we've signed on now, and to try to motivate them into action very soon. Now that we have a clear idea of what we need them to ask for, what we need them to do, we're going to go back to that group that have kind of empowered us with this voice and say, okay, here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to call your MP, call your MPP, demand of your provincial government, demand of your federal representatives, and be a loud voice, but with one message.
And so we'll go through some of the specific talking points and asks or recommendations your group is making. To me, it seems peculiar. Like if the government, this isn't just like, oh, you had a bad patio season and you're asking the government for help dealing with, there was bad weather and you weren't able to kick off the season properly. Like the government's forced you to close for the most part, right? And yeah. So has the government recognized the fact that they actually have something to step up and do, since they actually required you to stop business?
Yeah, in our discussions, they definitely recognize that we're not coming with open hands asking for help because we made poor business practices, as in the financial crisis of 2008. That was created solely by the businesses that went hands open asking for help. This has been imposed upon us. We are willingly sacrificing our livelihoods and our business for the health of the nation. We know it's the right thing to do. We want to do it, but we can't do it and then be the only ones to suffer financially the lion's share of this crisis. You can't give to other sectors like oil, like airlines, and give to those huge corporate sectors without bailing out an industry that actually employs 5 times those 2 sectors combined. So if you look at the numbers, the hospitality industry is 9% of the workforce of the nation. And that's 1 in every 12 Canadians works for something related to the hospitality industry. It's already lost almost 1 million jobs. Like we went from 1.2 million employed to 200,000 employed in 4 weeks. So this is a crisis on a scale like no other. They first tried to get money in the bank accounts of our employees, and we commend them for that. Like the CERB was rolled out quickly and effectively, I believe, with very little snafus to speak of. The issue is that they haven't considered with the same urgency that these people need jobs to go back to. Yeah. So it's a lot of one step at a time kind of political movements. Okay, now we did that. Now we're going to work on a rent deal. Now we're going to work on this. And our message is, no, you need to work in parallel together, because what's happening is businesses are closing by the day. Yeah. As they see no hope on the other side. Institutions who've been open for 20, sometimes 63 years in the case of Vesuvio's in Toronto.
That's right.
Closing, I mean, that business saw through 5 recessions and an alcohol prohibition for decades in their neighborhood and survived that. And then they saw this and they're like, we can't do this. We can't do it. So how is the restaurant who's only been open a couple years with way less experience and not such a huge following, how are they supposed to weather this storm without any hope on the other side? So our message to government is, give us the hope. If you intend on helping us, signal that you're going to help us. Tell us you're going to help us. And today the Prime Minister finally mentioned restaurants and the hospitality sector in his remarks for the first time in 4 weeks of doing daily press conferences, when we are the largest sector of unemployed people in the nation. It took 4 weeks for them to even mention us. That's a direct result of us on the phones with chiefs of staffs of ministries saying, you have to pay attention to us. And finally, they're saying, okay, we're going to signal to you that we are. Hope needs to be given to people. We know that we're going to get to a deal at the end. We know that we're going to come up with a reasonable solution for our industry. The question is, can we do it fast enough to save enough of us to prevent a full collapse of the business?
That was going to be my next question. Is the ask immediate right now, like April rent, like we need help just making it through rent, or is some of the relief also saying, like, if we are potentially going to open up in a few months, we need to upscale to be able to actually do that as well? Like, what is the specific immediate ask?
Yeah, so there's 2 asks. So the first is the ask of provincial governments to do an immediate moratorium on eviction proceedings. So this will protect the people who can't afford to pay their rent from predatory landlords who are not acting in good faith. Landlords who are taking advantage of the situation to their own desire. Many landlords obviously see that, hey, I want a tenant at the end of this. I'm going to work with you. We're going to come up with a deal. Everyone's going to have to feel a bit of pain here. We're not saying we don't owe them the money for the rent, but at the same time, we clearly have no means with which to pay it. So a lot of landlords we're working together with. Other landlords, some of them didn't like their tenants already, wanted them out. Now they have an excuse. That's no legal reason to get rid of them, actually. Because now the government needs to get rid of the now legal means by which predatory landlords can evict people. And also, some landlords want to develop their property, but they had a commercial lease in place and they couldn't do it to the end of that lease. If now a tenant isn't able to afford to pay, they can just go boom, evict, like, on April 15th, if you didn't pay your rent on April 1, April 15th, you're evicted. And we know 2 or 3 places already in Toronto that happened to, and I'm sure there's many more we haven't heard of. Yeah. So that's the first ask, is the provincial government in Ontario specifically and in Alberta are the only 2 jurisdictions that haven't banned eviction proceedings. We don't know why these 2 conservative governments refuse to do this, but they need to get off their ass and do it. They need to protect small business. If they say they're for small business and we're Doug Ford, we're open for business. Great. Help us stay open for business.
Yeah.
So that's the first ask. The second ask is of the federal government to provide a cash stimulus package that solves our crisis in our economic ecosystem. So the issue with why restaurants are unique in the small business world is that our margins are so small. We only make really 5 cents on the dollar. So what that means in terms of how we relate to the rest of the economy means that we contribute way more to the rest of the economy. 95 cents of the dollar that comes in, we spend in other places. We spend on labor, we spend on taxes, we spend on services, we spend on food and liquor, and we spend on insurance. If we can't pay those bills, that's a massive economic ecosystem that collapses. We are the only people that feed that many of these vendors. So these vendors are specific to our industry, whether it's your grease trap removal, or the guys who rent your dishwashers to you and sell your chemical, or the people that clean your windows, or the people that do your flowers, or the people that bring you, like farmers, brokers, and food deliveries, and then wine agents. These people are dying right now. The only way to save them is to give us the money to pay them. If you try to go and fund all these people individually, you have a problem. So this is why actually we're not looking for a rent deal that pays the landlords for not accepting rent for us. We're looking for a rent deal that says, just give us the money, we'll pay the landlords. We'll keep them whole. We want to pay our bills, we just can't. So our solution is to give us a lump sum of 10% of last year's sales, or the equivalent prorated number for restaurants that opened within the last 12 months and don't have a full year's sales to work from, and to say, give us that number. That allows us to pay our bills, hire back a couple of employees on the wage subsidy, because we'll have some cash to do that with now. The moment the wage subsidy is useless to us, because it doesn't exist yet. It's just an idea they're talking about that they're going to do, but we don't have any details of it, and there's no cash flow for it. So to hire people back, we need money. And then to be able to have a cash runway, like a ramp with which to get back into business, we have to buy all our perished inventory. We're the only business that lost inventory when this went down. Us and our food suppliers, we all lost a bunch of inventory. We have to buy that back and then pay people to prep it and prepare the restaurants and get things open. I mean, everyone knows opening a restaurant is a very cash intensive operation, and places don't budget to do it twice. We budget to do it once. So that's what we're asking for. It's actually a simple solution, but we know it's a big ask. We know it's going to take a lot of negotiation and discussion. But the first thing that has to do is to give us a breath of fresh air, give us the opportunity to quell the anxiety. And that means, like, stop the landlords from locking us out, assure the landlords that they're going to be made whole as well. Like, we're not looking to screw them either. They're our partners. We want to do right by them. But then also start working on a deal that allows us to put cash in the bank during this crisis so that we can launch out of it really, really well.